The Cursed Fangs and the Magic Paw by Haneya Multani. It was a typical December night. I was tucked up in my kennel, waiting for my dad Snoopy. When he sat down next to me, the flickering light from the fire shone on my dad, which made me realize something which I had never noticed before. Dad, how did you get that scar on your face, those bite marks above your ankle? Have you ever been in a ferocious dog fight? I asked curiously, but cautiously. My dad sighed and then looked down as if trying to avoid talking about it. I gulped nervously because I didn't want him to be upset. My dear son, I knew there would be a time when you would ask me this question, and I'm glad that you have. Let me begin, he said. One summer morning at the crack of dawn, I was standing in a huge crowd with the war horn in my trembling paw. My heart skipped a beat as I saw the army of our enemies marching towards the battlefield with rage-filled eyes. I had dreaded that moment for a long time, but now it was time to do what I was supposed to do. So I blew the war horn as loudly as I possibly could to alert my dog friends about Whiskilla and her army. What on earth was my dad talking about? Who was Whiskilla? I decided to ask him. Dad, who is this Whiskilla? Whiskilla was the ruler of vampire cats. She was an absolutely petrifying sight. Sticking out of both sides of her nose were needles instead of whiskers. In place of her front two canine teeth were fangs, like daggers protruding out of her mouth, ready to dig deep into the flesh of her prey. Her claws were as sharp as diamond blades. Even though Whiskilla was only a cat, she was stronger than an African bush elephant. She sounds terrifying, doesn't she? Well, she was even scarier if you had met her in real life, Dad explained. I shuddered, not because of the cold, but because of the gruesome picture my dad had painted in my head. My dad seemed to read my thoughts. Don't worry, he said. Just let me continue with the story. Dad, I have a question. Can I ask? Why was Whiskilla like that and not a regular sweet cat like we see every now and then? Was she always like that? Or did she change over time? I asked, feeling curious. Whiskilla was once owned lovingly by two humans, Alice and Lance. Her real name was Whiskers. She lived with them for a few years and she was given lots of love. But then her owners decided to move out of the house to a different city. And poor thing was left behind in the house with nothing to eat. Before Alice and Lance moved out, she always knew that when she was hungry, there would be food in her cat bowl. But now she didn't know where to look. Dad told me, looking a tiny bit sad. If her owners abandoned her, what did she do then? I asked, feeling bad for Whiskilla. Well, she went outside to see if she could find any food. She finally found some, but she still felt hungry. It was hard to adapt to life of being a stray. Since then, there was a world of difference between the life of a pet and the life of a stray. She was so used to feeling safe and warm in Alice and Lance's house, but now she had to look out for dangers and be on alert all the time. When she was a pet, I'm sure she never had to even cross a road on her own, but now she had to, and many times she nearly got run over by a car whizzing by. Even finding food when she felt hungry was an everyday struggle. But as time passed, she got used to being a stray. She also found other kittens and cats who had also been abandoned, and they became her friends. Whiskilla told them about how her human family left her, and the others had similar stories. The same things had happened to them too. But Dad, how did Whiskilla become evil then? Good question. You have that. Well, as each day passed, Whiskilla became angrier and angrier at humans. She just couldn't understand why would humans do this to her and to the other cats. could they just leave them to fend for themselves? If they have a pet cat, why couldn't they take care of them and take them with them if they had to go somewhere? When she used to live with her human family, she always thought of each one of them as her own family member. She loved them like a family. So how could they be so cruel and leave her? She saw kittens as young as few days old left by humans, and many would just die because they had no food and no shelter. Till that time, she had never bitten anyone. But one evening, as she was sitting near a pile of rubbish, searching for scraps of food, she saw a human passing by. And she felt so angry that she just ran towards that person and bit him on his ankle. And that time, she felt two long fangs starting to grow out of her mouth, like from nowhere. She turned to look at the human she had bitten. In its place stood a mindless zombie. It was then she realized that her bite would turn humans into mindless zombies. Soon she found that her bite had a different effect on cats. One bite her fangs, and she could turn a cat into a cat just like herself, a vampire cat with fangs. That would turn humans into mindless zombies if bitten. From that time onwards, everyone started calling her Whiskilla instead of Whiskers. You see? Oh no, I would never like that to happen to me. That would be terrible. Well, that's what I think anyways, I told my father. Well then, that's good if you think that. Anyways, shall I continue with what happened next? Yeah, please. Now I'll begin, so please be quiet. As we figured out later, Whiskilla had planned to use her powers in a very, a very unusual way. How did she use her powers, Dad? How? All in good time, my dear, all in good time. Whiskilla wanted to bite every cat and every human in the world. However, she meant no harm to us dogs. Well, at least initially, she didn't mean any harm to dogs. I could not believe my ears. Why on earth would Whiskilla want to bite every cat and human in the world? Well, I was soon to find out. I understand that you want to know why Whiskilla was going to bite every human and cat in the world. So I shall tell you now. She planned to create an army of vampire cats and then take over the world from humans. Sounds extreme for a cat, doesn't it? But she wanted to make all the cats in the world independent so that they wouldn't need humans to take care of them. She wanted her revenge. Whiskilla thought that this way no other cat would have to go through what she and her friends had suffered. She would bite the cats so she could have more recruits in her vampire cat army, and she would bite humans so that they would turn into mindless zombies. At first she thought that everything was perfect in her plan. Soon she came to realize that there was indeed a flaw that she hadn't thought about. It was us, the dogs. So she planned to get rid of all of us before attacking the humans. Huh? Us dogs? What do you mean, Dad? I was confused. Why would she even think of doing that? I will explain why the cat army wanted to attack dogs and how and why it was essential in their revenge on humans. Well, the cats wanted. Actually, I should correct that. Whiskilla wanted to attack the dogs because mostly humans keep dogs for security. With dogs out of the way, it would be extremely easy for vampire cats to attack the humans. Because without us dogs keeping an eye out for vampire cats, it would be like humans without shields. That is why she decided to attack the dogs first. We heard that she was able to paralyze dogs forever with just one bite of her fangs. They could still see and hear everything, but couldn't move an inch. Oh no, that sounds horrible. But Dad, surely not all cats were vampire cats. How did she manage to have so many cats who obeyed her? Smart question, son. She managed to persuade them by reminding them about how they had been abandoned by their humans. Most of those cats were abandoned pets, so they understood and were willing to join Whiskilla in her mission. Wow, she must have been very persuasive, Dad. Let's continue with the story. I'm very intrigued. and I want to know what happened next, I pleaded. Okay, now, let me go on. When we heard about the cats and their army, we reacted immediately in the best way possible we could. We gathered an army of our own, including the strongest, the toughest, and even not so strong dogs, so we could have the numbers. We knew we had to get organized, and we had to be in perfect shape to go against Whiskilla. No dog had ever come up against such a determined and powerful enemy. No army as large and organized as Whiskilla's had ever targeted us dogs before the history of dog kind. It was hard work, but we were as determined as ever, and our leader was a dog named Van Hounder. Van Hounder was the bravest dog I've ever met and the best leader we could have asked for. He taught us how to work together in groups and how to be each other's support. He also trained us to communicate with each other and how to inform every member of our army in case there was an attack. After this training, we were all fit and ready. We knew exactly what to do in case we had to send a battle signal to our dog army. We didn't have our D-phones, but then we still managed. I was given the war horn, which I was supposed to blow and alert the dogs for the battle. Van Hounder's house was our meeting point, so we were all supposed to gather there in the ground next to his house and move accordingly from there. It was nerve-wracking, and I must be honest, we were very scared. But when Van Hounder was around, we always worked our best. We knew it was going to happen, but just didn't know how and when. I can tell you want to ask a question. Go on, fire ahead, said Dad. How was Van Hounder, Dad? His name sounds a bit different than how usual dog names are. I hope he was not evil, I asked, feeling quite curious now. Well, I don't know why he was called Van Hounder, but he was certainly not evil. He had a heart of gold, if you ask me. Then what happened, Dad? I see you really want the whole story, but I have been talking for ages and I'm really thirsty. Do get me a drink, boy, and then we will continue. Sure, Dad, but pretty please don't take too long. I really want to know what happened next. After my dad had some milk, he continued with his story. Now, where was I? Oh, yes, now I remember. I was at the point where I was talking about our training and how we felt about it. Van Hounder had told me if something were to happen to him, I would replace him. I was honored and humbled at this honor, and I reluctantly agreed. However, I felt sad that Van Hounder's life was in danger. It seemed like ages until the battle, but finally the time came. It was time to fight and defend mankind. Dad dramatically paused after the last sentence. But Dad, what happened next? What happened in the battle? Did the dogs win? Did they defeat Whiskilla? One morning, as I was going for my morning run, I saw Whiskilla and her army marching towards Van Hounder's house. I knew that time it was time for me to blow the horn and alert everyone. I ran towards the highest point I could see and blew the war horn with all my might. Almost immediately our army started to proceed, and in the way we had always practiced. I was nervous from the top of my head to the tips of my toes, son. As I looked at our army, I realized that others were feeling the same. Just then I felt a comforting paw on my shoulder. I turned around and saw Van Hounder. Don't worry, he had said. We're doing this together. We win or we lose, but we're in it together. Now come on, my friend. Are you ready to have the time of your life? He said with an encouraging smile, because that's how brave Van Hounder was. I was ready. I knew I had a chance to do something brave. I and my dog friends were up against this huge army with evil intentions. we may get the honor of defeating them, or we would sacrifice dog kind to help save mankind. I was nervous, of course, but I gathered as much courage as I could and attacked the cats. Slash, bang, cut, thud. After a while, the scene was really horrible. There was blood spattered everywhere on the ground. I could see a huge number of our dog friends who stood motionless, paralyzed on the ground. Made me very sad. Also made me so angry, even though I was getting tired and exhausted. But my anger kept me going. It went on for what felt like hours and hours. Suddenly, something made me jump up and filled me with fear. Whiskilla was sneaking up on Van Hounder. It seemed to me like she was going to bite him, and he would be paralyzed forever, and I had to stop her. Oh no, what did you do then? Did you do anything? Oh, Dad, please tell me, I prompted him nervously, too anxious for him to complete. I immediately sprang into action. Running as fast as I could, I managed to reach Van Hounder just in time. With powers outstretched, I screamed out to Whiskilla, saying, "Don't you dare lay a single dirty claw on Van Hounder, or else..." I don't know why I just said that, but I did. She looked at me with rage-filled eyes. A few seconds later, she pounced, but this time not on Van Hounder, but on me. She was trying her best to dig her fangs into me. I fought back, and for a while I managed to dodge her attacks and survived. While we were fighting, some of the cats and dogs stopped fighting and started to look at us. Whiskilla wounded me badly and tried to bite me a couple of times, but I managed to escape her. However, I was so tired. I felt weaker and weaker, and suddenly out of the corner of my eye, I saw that Whiskilla was going to bite me. I tried to run, but it was too late. She had bitten me, and now I was paralyzed. There was nothing I could do about it. Oh no, what was going to happen? Did my dad stay paralyzed for the entire battle and not be the hero I had expected him to be? Did he manage to still defeat Whiskilla? I wanted to ask, but I knew he would tell me. Or would he? My dad continued with the story. Since I was now paralyzed, I couldn't do anything except for being still, looking and listening to the cries of my other fellow dogs, fighting for their lives. I saw Van Hounder looking at me with sad eyes. I felt deeply depressed because I felt like I had let him down. I had abandoned him. I was completely helpless, but I was hoping for a miracle. It was then I saw Van Hounder coming towards me instead of attacking Whiskilla, who was fighting with all her might. I hope you enjoyed this preview of the wonderful book The Cursed Fang and the Magic Paw, written by Haneya Multani. If you wish to finish the tale of Whiskilla's mysterious power and find out how Whiskilla was defeated, or if she emerged victorious, you can discover all the answers in Haneya's amazing debut book, which is available as an ebook and a paperback in all major online bookstores. Happy World Book Day. Hope you enjoyed today's session. Join us back next Thursday as we'll be back with yet another story from another wonderful book just for you.